Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you might be in the world. Bruce is with us at the moment. He might not be, this isn't a health reference. He might not be with us for long because his power's on and off. So let's see what happens. We'll see what happens with that. Gentlemen, hi, how are we all doing?
Oh my God. How's everything, guys? I believe I'm out of image, but no problems. And we are on holidays because after the big AUVSI conference, everybody stopped sending out news.
It's very true, actually. It has quietened down dramatically. It is very cyclical. We'll wait now until g'day Richard in the comments. We'll wait now until summer and people will start flying stuff and crashing stuff and press releases will ensue. And I don't think the Chinese manufacturers are sending out very many new airframes at the minute either. I'm not seeing a lot happening.
Actually, there are a few things in the works. I'm not sure if I should disclose too much, but Skywalker wanted to work on a new wing for the Titan. No idea why, because the Eve 2000 wing they had, they still have on it, seems pretty good, and I rather liked it on my Eve 2000, so I'm not sure why they would want to do a new wing. And I talked to them, they said, okay, we're still not sure about this, we have to discuss it, no idea what's happening. Also, it's in very top secret locations, and you know, it's very top secret that XUAV are working on an XUA on the clouds too, and supposedly that's going to be 2.3 or 2.4 meters. It was quite a bit, or maybe 2.2. It was quite a bit longer, like longer wingspan than the current clouds, which is around 1.9. And also, yeah, there's one more, but that one I don't think has made it out anywhere, and it's quite possible that I may be one of the very, very few people on this planet that know about it. So I'm gonna keep quiet, but it is one of the popular ones, and I think it's going to stir things up quite a bit because the guy said he's achieving some pretty impressive stats when it comes to watt hours per kilometer for a plane that weighs 4 or 5 kilograms. But we'll see.
Well, that's great. I can have a big glider that would be amazing. Can it carry anything useful?
Well, like I said, 4 or 5 kilogram plane. Most of that is batteries and payload. So I'm guessing the airframe he mentioned was around 2 kilograms with electronics included, or thereabouts. And we're talking twin tractor, not a VTOL, for a change.
Yeah.
And what about Gary? What about those smaller airframes that Hobby King is now so eager to launch and redo with like the mini superkinetic and the flying wings? They've been quite prolific on new models, on revamped models.
They had that one that ragged the nuts chap, another West Country bloke like me. He I can't remember his name. He had terrible flutter with it, didn't he?
Yeah.
Wanted to send it back, get it recalled. What did you reckon of that, Bruce?
Yeah, that's actually quite not uncommon. A lot of the foam wings coming out now, because foam itself is not a very structurally rigid material, unless you put some kind of a lot of carbon fiber in it, or you have some kind of tensile skin over it. It is very flexible, and I saw it was a EA Sheen FPV 900 wing or something that was terrible as well. I filmed the flex on that thing. It is difficult to actually get these things so that they fly well, and I think the one that Matt Ogborn was looking at was just a real wreck. I've got another Hobby King wing here. I'll be testing in the next few days. But it is a problem. I find it interesting. There are so many wings out there. You know, one stage it was all mini quads, all mini quads. Now it's all wings. And yeah,
this one's quite stiff.
Yeah, that's high density. Is it? Yeah, I know a lot of the manufacturers have gone to very high density foam now.
That's the Fury wing, and it's got this thick carbon spar, and that centerpiece is all made of carbon. And this thing is wicked fast. And I haven't seen any flutter or flex or anything else out of it. It's really good in the air. I just have to get the CG right.
Yeah, is that molded foam?
You have to with the wing. You got to get the CG right.
Actually, right now, I think it's nose heavy, and
that's okay.
Well, it could be tail heavy. It doesn't have a tail.
What?
No. You have to say again, Bruce.
Actually, some people put. Actually, some people install the servos here on the rudders, and they claim they actually work to stabilize the yaw instability these usually have. I'm really on the fence about this, but might try it out just out of curiosity. But this thing has been really solid for now, and it disintegrates, like, well, not disintegrates, but it falls apart if you crash it. So really, very rarely something breaks on it. So nice.
You're not crashing good enough. You have to crash better than that, Nicola.
Must try harder.
I will think after so many years of flying planes, you know, at some point you gotta stop crashing hard.
Oh no! Come on!
No. We call it durability testing.
It's not the matter of crashing hard or not.
I'm gonna have to start getting 2 of each if I'm gonna do durability testing. And
well, it's interesting with wings though. Back in the day, back when it was all Zaggies, everyone was packing tape a go-go, and then whatever, insert your country's name for that glass fiber reinforcement tape as well, called different things everywhere. So we have moved away from doing that. People just flying raw foam, and there's got to be an element of what, weakness? Yes, weakness. And I've never tried that laminating stuff. It's good.
Well, the interesting thing is that the packing tape and everything, that was an attempt to get a tensile skin, because wire cut foam doesn't have a skin as such, which is why it's so wibbly wobbly. And that EA Sheen FPV 900 machine, it was just a wire cut EPP wing, and it was really wobbly. The wing that was showing there looks like it was a molded foam. When you mold foam, it tends to have a kind of a more dense outside layer, which makes it more rigid. So stay away from the hot wire cut wings and stick with the molded ones.
Actually, depends. Yeah, go on, Lewis.
The thing is, I remember doing the wings from flight test according to the plans, and they were very durable and very and very solid. Even when I went with crazy 2000 watts motors on them. And
yeah, but the foam they use has a coating of paper on one of the sides.
Yeah.
And that gives it the thickness. We don't have that material or in that form around here. We have something similar, but it's so heavy it's not really feasible for use on something like that. And when it comes to molded stuff, what I've seen actually is that there's a difference from one model to another. For instance, the foam on the Eve 2000 was exceptionally dense. It's still EPO, but it's denser and it's different to the touch, as is actually on this thing. It's different to the touch. So when you squeeze it, it doesn't give. While the XUAV Cloud's an amazing plane, but noticeably when you squeeze that one, you feel the foam giving. It's not as hard as that on the Eve 2000 or this wing. So that is also something to keep in mind, that not every plane has been injection molded the same, even if it's an injection mold.
I
Some
believe
are denser.
the best ones are the ones that are made of Elapor. Who's the manufacturer who does the Elapor ones?
Oh, that's
Multiplex.
Yeah,
multiplex.
Yeah.
They're
multiplex.
just nice airplanes, aren't they? I think yes, there's that, but then also there's the actual design of the things. They tend to be just nice airplanes.
Yeah, yeah.
And very expensive.
No, come
Well,
on.
there's also that. Yeah, we don't all earn as much as you, Louis. You know.
No,
Actually,
come on.
when it comes to price, you can't beat XUAV with their microfiber foam thing. That is, in fact, I have to give them that, almost indestructible. I mean, you can jump on that thing and it will not crack or bend,
Yes.
or keep a bend. But
have you actually flown one of those things then? 3, not 1, not 2, but 3.
Does any one of you remember the XUAV 1?
Yes.
Yeah, the one where the prop rotates around the tail boom. Yeah. I had 3 of those.
Okay.
Different versions from the first pre-release version to a released version to a second release version. And even though, yeah, very sturdy stuff, heavier than EPO, definitely, and nightmarishly expensive because it has to be CNC cut. That thing, for some reason, cannot be injection molded, and it's CNC cut, and it's exceptionally expensive. I mean, the XUAV Clouds, that's MFM version, costs $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 compared to $200 for the EPO one.
Yeah, that's right. I started looking. They made a very nice version of the Talon, that bit bigger as well, better fuselage. But I can't. It was silly money. It was one worth risking. One worth. It's
they claim. I've asked them, and surprisingly, they did respond. They said mainly government agencies, stuff like that. You know, people that outside of the hobby buy these. And they're made for durability for certain. Not really. I mean, you don't spend $4,000 on the airframe alone just to do long-range FPV.
No.
Usually on the payload, you have more money than the $4,000. That's the problem.
Yeah.
You've got to be spending other people's money.
Yes. Nothing's expensive then.
Then it's easy, but we come to the design, and a friend of mine got one of these for a client, and he said it was a nightmare to get it equipped and working because it was so badly made. The MFM one, the CNC one, yeah. And now when they release the Clouds 2, actually there will be again 2 versions, an EPO one and microfiber foam one. And now, unlike before, they will be the same size because right now, the first Clouds, the EPO one is 1.9 meters, the MFM one is 2.5 meters wingspan. And I think it will be 2.3 meters now, but both of them will be the same size, only different material. Not sure if the MFM one will be easier to, the Clouds 2 MFM will be easier to wire and equip, but he said it was a nightmare to do that first one, but because his client wanted it, they had to do it.
Well, that's why I really like the. Don't work for the Believer people, but that Believer's so nice. It's everything. It's so nice.
I'm starting to think somebody's paying you off.
Yeah, I know.
But isn't that the Believer the one that we think that the designer actually flew the plane or actually had a specific need for that plane?
Exactly.
And we still don't know who the designer is.
No, we do.
Pop singer, young Canadian pop singer, Justin Believer. That's it.
Yeah.
Justin Believer. Yeah.
The company that supposedly manufactures it, it's called Make Fly Easy, which is one one letter away from My Fly Dream. But apparently their website actually doesn't have the Believer on their website. They have some Talon looking plane on there, and they do actually mapping as a service. And I'm guessing the Believer for some reason somehow came out of that work.
That would
why they
make a
don't
lot
have
of
it on their
sense.
website, why they don't have it on their website is really, I have no idea. But it is a great plane indeed. And now with the Pixhack Nano, it's even better.
What's a Pixhack Nano?
Well, it's a cheaper, lighter version of the Pixhawk 2 point something that everybody's so hyped up about. Seems to work fine.
Oh, Nate,
smaller. Come on, Nicola. You want smaller than this?
That looks awful, to be honest.
Yeah, it's huge.
What the hell is that?
Close to the camera.
Let's get it. Let's get it. One that you like. Oops. Like this one?
Nah, this is a brick in comparison. Come on.
Come on, you like it?
This one, Louis.
Nathan's in the comments there.
Yeah, Bruce is on the right track. On the right track there.
And Nathan's saying, "Well, hang on, I've actually got bags of components here as well, but that's for different things altogether." And he's saying that there's going to be design change to the I guess you're meaning the Believer, but he's also mentioned that old thing that comes up a lot that Bruce probably has an opinion on, and he can probably get an educational video on out of it. He says, "Don't you want your wings with a golf ball like texture so it flies further? If you wait long enough, this argument comes around again and again and again." So
the shark theory, the shark skin theory.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Bruce will be the man that knows. Bruce will know.
Well, you have tubulators along the leading edges of glider wings and things. You know, that just improves the performance. But you've got to hit them with a really big club when they get that size.
Yeah, absolutely, you do. But it is that probably will come up. I haven't seen that in. I haven't seen that one come up in FPV conversations for a while now, so it's bound to come up. And he's done it. It's Nathan started it. He started it. Yeah, we'll blame him when this comes back in the forums now.
Just fly your average foam model in a hailstorm, and you'll get that effect quite well.
You will. You're absolutely right. I can't believe we've just rattled on for 18 minutes and we weren't even going to talk about that. I am actually thinking about making another flying wing. I haven't done for a while. I've had a look at a few that are around and about. Then I'm still blown away by the price of an EB. I can't believe.
You use the word flying quite loosely there, Gary.
What's that?
Flying wing.
Yeah.
the way you build them, yeah.
Oh yeah. No, it will be. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, that's why I've actually moved a house that's on a bloody great slope. Because if you hoy it off, everything I build flies for a second or two, even if it is only down. But it always goes. Now, what were we actually going to? Did we see? Now who can say this? Did we see? I'm going to put it in the comments for the dear viewer. A really crazy looking VTOL thing, but what I wanted to do, I wanted to see is who can say that name 5 times. it's a mad name, and that's surely got to be some of the proposition is actually whether you can get away with saying that. If people can't say the name, how's anyone going to ever buy it?
Really don't see why a name has to be so, difficult.
No,
or fancy.
But then see, you're avoiding saying it. Bruce is thinking about it. I don't know. I don't know what Louis
Neoptera eopter.
Yeah, now say it 5 times. Say it 5 times.
Oh, come on.
It's crazy.
You're just trying to get us to swear, aren't you? I mean, no, that's a perfectly good name. I see no problems with that.
Oh, but did you see the thing itself, though? I mean, how does it fly? I think it's got. Was it which one of the tail sitters? One of the military tail sitters had it. Was the idea of swinging the whole cockpit from when you go vertical horizontal, and I think it's got that gig in it.
That looks suspiciously like a rendering to me.
Oh well, then yes,
Yeah.
but then that's
Come on.
perfect.
But rendered planes are the best ones. They fly wonderfully.
They do.
Look, it's got a blockchain in there. I can see a blockchain and some augmented reality hanging off the side. It's fantastic. It's what we've been looking for all these years.
It is. It is. I just it struck me as an amazing thing. It is.
I think this is what it looks like during forward flight.
Well, but also, if you look at that rendering, it looks to me like the props, if you rotate them, are going to hit the ground. But anyway, but that's.
How dare you bring facts into it?
No, I think actually that thing is supposed to sit on the backside when taking off vertically. And if you take a look at the cockpit, there's this circular thing on the side that seems to be holding it to the frame. So perhaps it sits upright for takeoff, and the cockpit is still level, and then the whole thing rotates around the cockpit for forward flight. Just guessing.
I think, Nicola, what we're going to do is we're going to create a new department, and we're going to call you the Minister of Innovation and something or other, and you can be the man that works out how all the things work. Andrew, Gary, I thought you were going to use design wings.
And then he might win that Airbus competition of the plane. Remember that competition of the plane that never flew?
I was invited to the prize giving at Farnborough 2 years ago, and I didn't bother going. I was there. I was actually there on the airfield, and I didn't bother going.
There's nothing new under the sun. That's just a version of the Convair XFY Pogo.
There you go.
Yeah. That's what happens for people that have memory. But I believe marketing guys don't have memory. It's something that is required for them not to have.
It's probably some degree of truth into that. Andrew Dibbin saying about thought you design a wing using that funky software. Yeah, but I'm still not convinced about VTOLs, even though those people from that funky software are very, very nice. I fail to see the advantage of tail sitters, really, unless you really, really, really had to, because there's really nowhere where you can't just chuck a standard wing, just chuck it harder and like that.
Well, commercially, VTOLs are actually quite more useful than regular planes or copters separated.
Yeah,
but I think but you might as well have a helicopter. Hang on, what have you got in the background there, Louis?
Oh my! Here on the background.
Yes.
Let me see something not so small.
No, but that'll lift quite a payload for quite a long time, and it's still got that vertical element to it.
It's interesting, isn't it, that NASA is sending a drone to Mars, and guess what they've chosen to send? Well, guess the configuration that they're using. It's not a multi-rotor. Well, it is, but it's not a quadcopter.
Yeah. And NATO belly sitters are where it's efficient, stable, controllable. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, it depends on the flight control stack that you put on it.
He's done it again.
It looks like Louis keeps that by the bed, so it's the first thing he sees when he wakes up in the morning.
No, it's not by the bed. It's in the office, and sometimes in the workshop, and already on the fields. So,
well, he has a few just so he doesn't have to carry it around quite so much.
No, I have to carry it around on the car, and the batteries, which are a real pain in the backside.
Don't leave them on the seat, Louis. Just don't leave the batteries on the seat. That'll fix that problem.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh, I tell you, shall I admit something? Maybe there's a really nice lad and vets here in town, son of the vets, and I told him about lipos. I said, watch out, just be careful, don't overcharge him, blah, 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 blah. And blow me if he's about 15, I think he is, if he didn't burn his bedroom down a couple of weeks ago, set fire to the curtains. And so be careful out there with lipos. Do be careful.
There was in the news some French company that burned out completely.
That's right. Yes,
lipo fire.
That's right. I'm struggling to remember the name of them now, but yes, a French company went bust because they burnt themselves out.
They didn't have any insurance?
I believe that it depends if the insurance covers it or not.
It does.
Yeah, that's why I bought a few ammo boxes to keep batteries in.
Yeah, that's a good solution.
Make sure you drill
Guess what? Those boxes, yeah, those boxes are still empty though.
Yeah.
You got to wonder about the merits of throwing a battery into a steel box, which is highly conductive.
Yeah, I have always wondered that myself.
But there was an article of comparing different storage methods. I believe it's from the guys that did that funky looking battery box and sold it through Hobby King, and they did a comparison of various methods, the asbestos bags, the boxes, the
sorry,
just wrap them in gasoline-soaked newspaper. That's the only safe way.
That does actually. I was going to ask some advice from you grown-ups. Mustang 04 in the comments is saying, with all the interest in VTOL, I'm surprised tail sitting with Argipilot in larger twin tractor wings isn't the current hot trend. A lot of X8 and could really use something of that size. I think you'll end up using enormous motors and enormous propellers to get really big platforms going.
In high voltage, and then you get enormous efficiencies. And actually, I think that's sort of the logic behind the VTOL Nimbus thing that actually Charles developed and Foxtech FPV are selling as a ready kit, because that thing uses 13 or 14-inch props, and the only thing you have in addition to the two motors pulling the plane is just one more motor at the back on the tail boom, and that's not a lot of weight or drag, especially considering how much other stuff. I mean, you've probably seen pictures of my XUAV clouds. I've got two sticks like this, that big, that one holds the video transmitter, the other holds the radio receiver, and then I've got the gimbal right at the front, and then I put all sorts of other gear on it while testing something. So I'm pretty sure one motor isn't going to cause a huge amount of drag. And also, those two motors that then rotate forward, they've got these huge props on them, and it's running on 6S, I think.
Yes.
And should be getting pretty good efficiency at that size. I mean, Nathan did, 5 hours something on a 12 by 12 prop on the Believer. And 12 by 12 theoretically should make it impossible for that plane to take off without a bungee or something. And he showed me some video of it, and basically he just lets go of the plane as if he's throwing a light paper airplane, and it just goes vertically, like 30-degree angle or something. Quite
Nothing
impressive,
succeeds
actually.
like success.
Yes.
Yeah. You'd expect a 12 by 12 prop to stall when throttled up, on statically, because before you have any airspeed, it should be stalled. But my experience, for instance, on the Ranger 2000 with an 8 by 8 prop is that, holding it in my hand, it has more thrust than the 6 by 8 prop, which supposedly should have more grip during a static thrust test. But the higher pitch prop actually had higher thrust and did not stall, and the 12 by 12 apparently works pretty much the same way. And his throttle curve was a bit smoother with that prop compared to a 13 by 8 one.
I mean, these questions I leave to Mr. Simpson. it's all a little bit above my.
Mr. Simpson, pull up your CAD.
Oh
drawing
yes,
board,
yes,
please.
PenCAD. Yes, PenCAD. He's not going to be drawn. Oh, there we are.
He's not biting.
No, I won't bite. No.
Oh, blast! I'm
I know nothing.
surprised. I'm sorry. I'm surprised I'm not seeing more of that. Fox Tech. You can be here if you want, Nate. If you're nearby, I'll send you the link. I'm surprised we're not seeing more of that Fox Tech try. It looks very good, and the price was really good as well. I thought for what it is. I'm surprised people aren't going. Yeah, but it's not bad for what it is in the VTOL electric VTOL space.
Yeah.
It's
thing is, most people that are actually gonna buy this aren't the masses for FPV. Probably somebody for mapping or some other task-specific job, and probably those people are not the first ones to resort to bragging on forums or posting on forums unless they run into some serious trouble and nobody can help them, like along the chain of purchase, corporate, whatever, because usually it's company thing. Because I think when first Charles showed me the prototype of that Nimbus, that was shortly after it was released, so it's now what, two years ago. He said that he was building a few of these for the Chinese police or army or something like that. So that's targeted not really at the FPV community, and hobby grade, but a bit above that.
They had a directive to equip every police station with something, and that was going to be flying wings. I don't know if it ended up being that or multi-rotors, but they were definitely going down that path, and that's definitely aided and abetted the development of this industry in the last couple of years. It was a massive order. I can't remember the size, but it was massive, like many thousands of aircraft for police stations of X size, whatever it was.
That explains why Charles went missing.
I should think so. What else? Oh, Richard, charging batteries in a breeze block with a bag of sand on top. Yes, yes, that's right. Now, back to what I was going to ask.
That'd be a bit uncomfortable, though.
Well, I mean, yes, that's right. Yeah. So, Bruce, what battery am I going to? What is the recommended battery for this thing now? My son's P175. I've got to get some more batteries for it.
I have a 14S 5000.
14S 5000. But what's
14S?
14S.
You'll kill yourself. Electrocute yourself.
That thing is gonna be able to break out in orbit.
Yep.
But what's the
175 millimeters from prop to prop? Is it?
Probably, yeah. P175.
You're probably a
Gary,
thousand.
I even lent you the tray, the battery tray.
Oh, okay.
I can borrow you the battery tray.
1.3 amps sounds about right. Possibly 4S.
4S 1.3. And is there any preferred manufacturer at the moment?
Hobby King. No, actually, it depends what you want to do. Some of the best current delivery comes from the graphene type nanotech batteries, but they do tend to dump very quickly. I've got graphene batteries and I've got ordinary batteries, and for stuff like proximity flying and just having a good time, I tend to use the ordinary nanotech batteries rather than the graphene ones, because the graphenes dump too quickly. They'll deliver full voltage right up until the last watt, and then the voltage, it's like someone throws a switch and you're on the ground. The other batteries tend to fade more progressively, so you can tell when your battery's getting down, and you're not going to be caught out unexpectedly when the whole thing goes black. So I would, unless it's competitively racing, I'd just go with something like the Hobby King nanotech batteries. They're pretty economical.
On the Hobby King side, either I go with the nanotechs or the other series, which are the blue ones,
the Zippies or the blue Turnigies.
They're Turnigy or something. It's a blue wrapper, and then the tattoo ones. If it's something serious, just don't.
I'm not impressed with the Tatu batteries, actually. I've got to say, I've had a number of different of the Tatu batteries, and they're all a bit soft. They like when you punch them, the voltage does drop quite a bit, and I get much better results from my Hobby King batteries. Or maybe it's just me, but I've got the R line and all the other ones, and they've just never really had quite the same level of performance. But they are nicely built battery. They have aluminium separator plates between the cells and a little PC board on the end, so they're really well built. But they just don't seem to hold up quite so well.
I think in terms of longevity, they're also better than the Hobby King ones, as far as my experience goes. The Hobby King batteries, under heavy use do tend to go pretty quickly.
Yeah, but they've only got to get you to the scene of the crash.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I did have nanotechs. That's what he's had. But I mean, he's
depends on what you can get over there easily. Banggood is selling one of those Baoeng. I never can't remember the name. Gaoeng, I think they had some pretty high C rated batteries, and they do get pretty good reviews. I'm not sure if they're from people that actually do know what they're talking about, or just...
By the way, Nicola,
I saw some 200C batteries rated 200C on the Nyingtong Yidlai Pei brand from Banggood, and you're thinking, yeah, sure. And they've got an XT60 on them, and that
was what I was going to say. XT60 on that current, you should replace that plug with the 150 or at least the XT90, Gary.
Well, hang on. I've got one of my fuses here. This fuse I find works very, very well.
3L fuse, they're the best.
Yeah, that's it. There you are. Yes, that's right. Well, hang on. No, it tells me what it is on the side. This is 18 amp, apparently. It's got 18 on it. Yeah.
This seems more like 118.
Yes, quite possibly. No, well, all right. Well, that's what I'll do. I'll get some of those. That was a little aside. I just thought I would ask your advice while we were here, because you're the people that would know. Did we see?
The only thing to watch, though, Gary, is the capacity, because the 175mm frame might benefit from a 1000 milliamp battery. It'd be a bit lighter, and you'll find that 1300 may be a little bit heavy, which makes it harder to fly. It doesn't perform as well, and you don't actually get that much more flight time because everything's working harder. It's that law of diminishing returns.
Yeah. Yes. Even when you go big, for instance, when you go big multi-rotors, the industrial ones, sometimes going with the 22,000 milliamps is a mistake. So if you come down to the 16,000 milliamps, you get better flight time. So that's one thing.
Yeah, but with the big multi-rotors, at best you'll have 100% thrust in reserve, like it's 2-to-1 thrust to weight. But with racing copters, it's usually 10-to-1.
I know. Yeah,
or actually even more. So adding 50 grams on a copter that has 6 kilograms or over of thrust, really, I think you should be able to load the racer up quite a bit before you hit that diminishing returns really noticeably, because 50 grams on 6+ kilograms of thrust shouldn't have that serious of an effect on the flight time.
But Nicola, that's also because the racers only made to operate 3 minutes, 4 minutes.
Well, yeah, sure. Well,
big ones
actually depends on how you're flying it. If you fly the big one, the same way, I'm pretty sure you're gonna go through that 16 amp battery in under 5 minutes. So
I wouldn't say so, but probably not the same 30 minutes, but at least half. And we've seen, depends on the weather. If it's too turbulent, yeah, you get the very low.
No, I mean, put in the air, like fly one of those big copters, and for safety's sake, remove the camera and put something else in there, like a ballast, and just fly around a racetrack. giving it full throttle around every corner. And tell me how much that 16-amp battery lasts.
We did that. We did that. It cuts down to about 2/3, between a half and 2/3 of the normal flight duration. Because
it's interesting. Nate is jumping on that comment. So I wish you did join us, Nate, because this is a good one. So I was going to mention this about flying weights. He says with fixed wing though, more battery equals faster flight and equal or more distance covered. Load them up heavy and get good power system to handle the need for increased thrust and speed. And that leads me to something that I've been thinking about, which is so with the Believer and other platforms like that in big thermals in Africa, they get thrown around the sky. And if you're on a mapping mission, you can be 50, 100 feet higher than you need to be at the particular point, and not a lot you can do about it. Are we approaching a point where we kind of need to have bigger platforms anyway, just to punch through all that disturbance in the sky? Are the weights of these systems going to go up to accommodate that sort of thing, both to increase the endurance because you can fly longer, and or to fight the effects of turbulence? I don't know. Anyone been thinking about that?
For instance, we have one of the Ardu Pilot partners, Thunder Tigers, TT Robotics. It's a division of Thunder Tiger. Sells some drones that are tethered, and they can be parked in the sky for 12 hours, replacing, for instance, a mobile carrier antenna on some. If you go to a catastrophe, somewhere that you need to ensure mobile communications, you just pick up the drone, and the drone gets a tether of 100 meters, I believe. And it stays there parked in the sky for 12 hours or more.
Funny enough, Mustang 04 in the comments is saying that he's just doing that for an S900, and I should do that for the lads, this one. And yes, connected to a car battery via a tether. Yeah, those tethered systems are quite interesting.
And there was, some time ago, there was some guys that announced one for the Solo. For the those people also make one for various DJI systems, and they're a French company, and they sell them for traffic monitoring and all that sort of a thing. And Nathan is coming to defend himself. Oh blast! Everyone better talk nicely now. Yeah, that's it. Everyone hide. That's right. Okay. Anything to say, Nathan?
Not yet.
Oh, okay.
So
600.
Come on, Nathan. You've joined us. Which point do you wish to prove us wrong at, or tell us off for?
You know, I just had a struggle connecting, so I'm not sure. I haven't heard any points that I disagree with significantly yet, but just keep going there.
I just said that having a plane that flies 6 hours is not compared to a multi-rotor. No reaction?
It's completely different.
Oversimplifying it.
It's completely different. I don't see that there's really much relation, I guess.
No, but the idea of, so you know, we've hit a point where long range platforms are relatively low cost now, relatively low cost, and you can certainly do it. In fact, funny enough, I'm going to make sure I don't go too long this one, because in about 4 hours' time, I'm getting on an airplane to Joburg, and I've got to go and speak to grown-ups at a conference, DroneCon 2018. I'll be there tomorrow. One of the points I'm making is, you know, you can get to a system that can do 1,000 hectares quite easily now, which you couldn't have done 5 years ago, and more, depending on the resolution that you want and all those other good things. So we're hopping and skipping away from Cessna country now, which is and friends of mine that are into surveying reckon that about 8,000 hectares is the tipping point. Where if you hit 8,000 hectares, then you are eating into Cessna territory, and we're not far away from that. But I think we are going to need to have bigger platforms just because of the nature of the air that they'll be flying in during the day. Gone a long-winded way around saying that, and I was wondering what Nathan's opinion on that was.
I think absolutely. I think that when beyond visual line of sight gets more, accepted, why in the world would you waste the materials and the resources that you need to have a manned aircraft with such high maintenance cost and regulations because of safety of the pilots and the passengers when you can have unmanned systems and numerous amounts of them and not have nearly the risk, and you're flying so much lower and with so much less risk, you can capture data faster with a better resolution. It just makes sense if that's what you need.
But do you think the airframes we've got now are heavy enough? Well, you say loaded with batteries, so that's immediately what triggered my way of thinking. Are they heavy enough to get through turbulent air? The sort of mechanics of the flight regime.
I actually don't think that there is a significant relation or proportion of weight to stability when it comes to turbulence. I mean, the heavier you get, it is a little bit more stable. You probably get bounced around a little bit less on a passenger aircraft than you would a little Cessna. But on the same token, it's really not that much different. And I would say you'd rather have two small lightweight aircraft than one big heavyweight aircraft. When it comes to scanning and area coverage, you just need numbers. You need, space, and to cover more space, it's easier to do with smaller aircraft and kind of take a Sherman tank approach per se.
Yeah, fair comment, and that's
So
why
you're
I asked
saying doing swarms of scouting planes.
Exactly.
Yes. Swarms of planes that can generate their flight lines based on, the number of planes in their swarm. Now you don't have to turn a tight radius. You can scan every other line and just with two of them, your efficiency is increased just due to turn radiuses in some instances. There's other reasons
of that imagery. I just don't want to do the stitching of 8 planes flying information. It's going to be...
Yeah, but that kind of is another hurdle we're coming up to. We're crossing the hurdle of actual ability to fly for the amount of time, the sensors, these sort of things are going by. Those are happening now. That's getting out of the way. And the next set of problems is how on earth do you process all that stuff? And that will also go away because computers will get faster. And
come on, don't be naive, Gary. You get, for instance, the new industrial phase 1 cameras with 100 megapixel sensors that weight what they weight. They're a real pain to handle all that data. And I can tell you that, for instance, we do, for the survey of the wind turbine blades, we do a lot of images per side of the blades. We take around 342 megapixel images. So 300 times 42 of one wind turbine blades. And I can assure you it's a real problem of all that data manipulation. So
yeah, but I know how to make that problem go away. It's just chuck loads of money at it and you make that problem go away.
I respectfully disagree with the larger camera comments, because I think the larger cameras and with the increases in accuracy today actually result in less processing time, because you get so much more data in one single photo. You've got to do less computations of positions of images. And as the accuracy increases and you can take an accurate location and orientation of a sensor, you're now talking about what manned aircraft has already done and automated, and you can do so much more. The industry just doesn't need it today because we're not talking that quantity of data, but I think that'll come.
Point of order then, Nathan, you absolutely don't have to be. In fact, I think we ask that you're not respectful here. There's no need to be respectful at all. But no, yeah, I can see where we are, as you mentioned BV loss, and that's going to be a big thing of this conference. They're going to be rattling on about BV loss. But we are at another tipping point. 10 years ago, keeping something upright was quite hard. Then getting it to hit a waypoint was quite hard. Then to get it to hit a waypoint at an altitude at a speed was quite hard. That's all gone away. That's done now. and new sets of problems arriving. So I think we are a new, exciting tipping point. And as I've said before, we're at the limits of multi-rotors. In the comments, Richard says fuel cells are the future. Let me throw that to the floor. Are fuel cells the future?
Tell that to Honda cars.
Well, I guess we'll have to wait and see how they develop. Right now, what we're looking at, you know, in the more immediate future is further developments to the lithium-ion cells, perhaps those 2170 700 actually size cells becoming widely available for purchase, and possibly then some other chemistry companies are working on all sorts of crazy material combinations to make batteries, graphene, air, whatever.
Bruce,
so I guess we'll see fuel cells are one possibility.
Bruce, we have to add another keyword to our conversations. We have blockchain, and now we have new battery chemistry or new developments on battery, because it's recurring, this battery stuff, right, Bruce?
Yeah, it's every few months you get someone rolls out a new battery technology. It's going to change the world, and all they need is a bit more funding. But we've had so many of these technologies which have never really come to commercial viability. And fuel cells are the same. I remember reading probably 10 years ago that your next laptop will be powered by ethanol because it has this little fuel cell. You just pour the ethanol in and your laptop will run for 12 hours and you don't need to recharge it. You just top it up. And these technologies have been there in the background because they offer huge potential. But the reality is there are so many practical limitations and restrictions that stop them from becoming mainstream. They're extremely expensive, or they're it's like perpetual motion. I've got a perpetual motion machine here. It's 95% of the way there. And I'm sure the last 5% will be so trivial. It's that kind of situation. So I don't think fuel cell technology is going to be big, because most of the people talking fuel cells are talking hydrogen. And hydrogen as a fuel has its own set of problems, which are huge, which is why we've only seen, I think it was Honda and a couple of other auto manufacturers have played with hydrogen and then basically given up and gone back to hybrids and electrics, because there's just so many problems with hydrogen as a fuel. NASA can do it, but they've got basically a limitless budget, and they only need to do proof of concept. They don't have to commercialize anything. As far as you and I using fuel cell technology and, and hydrogen and so forth, it's not going to happen in the foreseeable future. Maybe it'll happen in 20, 30 years' time, because I mean, fusion reactors are only 10 years away. So we'll have those. That'll solve the whole problem.
And let me look at the calendar. We are at 1950 when that announcement of the fusion reactors came up, right?
Yep. Nathan, you're going to jump in there.
Fuel cells, I don't think have a significant place in remote aircraft, because we're already seeing efficiencies that are beyond the daylight hours that can be used for scanning anyway. When it comes to remote sensing, if you're talking about military applications or something that needs high endurance, yeah, sure, that might be great. But right now, there's no need to overcomplicate smaller aircraft and small remote aircraft, because let's face it, when you've got a fuel system, a fuel cell, you've got to have a system to convert that chemical energy into some form of mechanical energy. And usually that's done through transforming it to electrical energy first. So now you've got all those different types of energy that all have to go through conversions, and you're always losing in the end. You can never gain energy. You're always losing. So
no, but a good example is this helicopter. This helicopter flies for 10 minutes on 5,000 12S batteries, and Chris Olsen, the Ardupilot heli maintainer, transformed one of these to run on a petrol engine, and he flies for 30 minutes. So we're still a long way on the electrical side to be as efficient. The energy density of gasoline is nowhere compared to what we get from batteries.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that, but when it comes to flight times and things that really need endurance, you're talking about a dedicated aircraft that's usually a fixed wing, and as we've seen, we're already in the 5 to 6 hour range with very basic, cheap technology. I mean, if you really want to expend money and make lightweight systems and pack even more batteries in there and solar. Why not? You can get flight times in probably the 8, 10, 12-hour range, which is all you would ever need. And if not, why wouldn't you step up to a more energy dense fuel source like a fuel system? It's just more expensive and more complicated.
I think we might move to different ways of gathering the imagery and different ways of processing the imagery when our aircraft can fly through the useful daylight periods. I can see more sort of trawling around and just gathering that whole swarm that you have of 6 or 7 aircraft. And why would you bother just gathering, 2 fields? And in fact, this is what the Airbus concept is, with using satellites and all the other stuff. And Airbus and other companies have been desperate to it was Thales was the other one in Europe, desperate to sell into Europe large Predator-sized systems and sell the data as required to the user that needs it. So at night time, while this thing's still driving around, you sell there's a car chase going on, and it gets sent off to do that. In the daytime, it does its agricultural mapping, at different use cases. And they're desperate to put huge systems in permanent orbits and sell the data, which I think a lot of people are missing that point. And that's Airbus is offering, from satellite through down to the tiny RPAS, with the more medium altitude, long endurance, and hail systems in between as well. So I think we're going to see a change in the way that data is being gathered and culled. What we're saying Richard says all rubber bands are good, and fuel cells generate electricity rather than using stored electricity. Faster refuel than charge, still higher cost. So faster to refuel than to charge. So that's his argument for the moment.
That's not gonna be so for much longer, though.
Yeah, I mean, well, how many usable daylight hours are there in a day, I wonder? Is it 3 hours either side of midday? For 8 hours? Is it 8 hours? 4 hours either side of 8 days?
Yeah.
How high does the sun have to be?
Yeah. Besides, you can easily charge a second battery in the time it takes the plane to discharge the first one. So really, recharge times, I don't think, are the most critical thing here. You're not on a Formula One race.
Mm.
You talked about the time that data collection can happen, and from what I've seen with my limited experience is that sun angles are in the range of 30 degrees. So it depends on where you are with respect to in the globe, but 30 degrees is your hard limit, and that's due to shadows and other things that are not wanted at this point. But the other thing that I wanted to bring up is that you talk about daytime and nighttime, and LiDAR is perfectly viable at night. That's easy to collect, but I don't know how much practical use there is for LiDAR for everything. I mean, sure, we can go map the world, more finely, but why, I guess.
Sterling.
It's interesting as well. You've got 2 ways of approaching the problem. You can have a craft that flies for 10 hours and maps a specific area, or you can have 10 craft that fly for 1 hour and map the same area. So you don't need endurance. And if these things are cheap enough and the technology is proven, you just go out there and take as many machines as you need to do the job in the time frame available. And you don't need to worry about the battery technology or anything, because you're just multiplying that out. And so you could do your 8,000 hectares with enough machines in half an hour.
Yeah.
But I think your cost of landing and taking off and recharging is so much more significant on a 1 hour endurance plane than it is on a 5 hour endurance plane. I think your benefits of scale.
Nathan, I've been on these last 2 weeks. I was on the field doing surveys, and I can tell you that doing 8 to 10 hours flights every day is very taxing. If I could divide that by the number of vehicles constantly in the air, I would rather have 10 vehicles, 12 vehicles in the air at the same time doing the job that would take me 12 flights or 12 hours. I would rather do that. So it's
when time constraints come into it, yes, I understand that more vehicles can get more things done. But when it comes to a size constraints or getting more area coverage, period, I don't understand why you would ever, step down into the 1 hour endurance world if you're just trying to cover massive area with unlimited time constraints.
Yeah, but
you also get redundancy. If you've got 10 machines, you've got more redundancy than one machine. And in a commercial perspective, these things have an effect as well.
Come on, what we sell to the customers is our time, and if you can do the job in 1 hour, that if you choose wrongly, and I'm not saying wrongly, if you choose differently and go to 8-hour flights instead of having 8 planes that do the work in 1 hour, it's your time that you're charging the customer, so you can charge less and be more effective on what you do.
But I think the point that we're talking about here is that these are remote autonomous aircraft. So really, our time shouldn't be calculated into that value. It should just be whether the craft can go there and do it on its own. And I think we're starting to move in that direction. But I see what you're saying right now.
Yeah, so the thing is, if you go and fly for 10 hours a day, I can tell you, it's very exhausting to do 10-hour flights every day.
Yeah, but you're the bit. Yeah, you're very old, and you're the bit that's being removed from the equation, though, Louis. That's kind of the point, where the meatware it shouldn't really be there. And this does segue really, really very nicely into. Did we see the Fortune article today?
Of Andy Trench?
Of running a drone business was a massive cash cow. Then the drones arrived. Andy Tench made $2,000 a day in 2015, taking sky-high photographs along the East Coast with a drone. He made himself. Now that same work fetches about $175, but it more speaks to the fact that there will be fleets of inspection drones being run by companies without pilots in the loop, getting the automated data and all that sort of thing. And I think Nathan's the man that's going to build it. damn you.
But this won't happen until the regulators get their heads around the fact that we can leave these things to operate unattended. We don't need an observer, and we don't need a spotter, and we don't need someone there with a clipboard and a high-vis jacket.
That's the elephant in the room, isn't it? Nowhere apart from, I don't quite know how Intel get away with it, and these swarms in China, they'll just do it. But one aircraft, one operator, and that's most of the world has that, and that's going to be a big constraint.
I was looking at the Danish regulations because we have a flight for Denmark. We have flights in Denmark scheduled. And you can get away from that with the special permission of the aviation authorities. And I believe that's common on most aviation authorities. So I'm sure that Mr. Intel came to the aviation authority of whatever country and say, we are Mr. Intel and we are going to fly 2,000 drones. I believe it's the next.
Well, because really that's what showing us the fancy lights in the sky isn't really what it's showing us, is it? It's not showing. It's showing us all those figures. It's showing us it can be done. It can be done safely, and that's how you'll do an inspection. And that's back round to Bruce's, 10 1-hour things. If you have 1,000 5-minute quadcopters, you'll soon get the job done.
I always say the Sherman tank approach, I guess, and that's where. Building out the Believer as an inexpensive plane and making it do something that not every other plane can do really comes into market. And it's starting to push those boundaries versus, single fixed wing aircraft that are very expensive versus, multiple aircraft that aren't.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're going to get that to that 8,000 hectares with eight Believers easily. Easily.
This is like the computer industry. Remember, we used to have these big mainframe computers, massive, huge Sherman tanks of computers, and everyone had their little terminal. And then the microcomputer came along, and instead of having this huge single point of failure, massively expensive computer, everyone had their own little computer, and you distributed the task, and that's the way computers work now.
And now you have cell phones, and many people don't have computers, just use their cell phone as a computer. So the swarm is getting smaller and more numerous.
Just to be clear about the Sherman tank approach, I mean that as opposed to very specialized, expensive tanks. In case anybody was questioning that, just Sherman tank just means go in numbers. Many
tank versus Abrams tank. The one
other tanks are available.
Yeah.
Yes. Do you guys have to say that in your countries and your television or your media, if somebody mentions a brand name, do they have to say, because they do hear other, if they say tomato, Heinz.
We just say, follow the link in the description to the Amazon site where you can buy these things.
I'm not sure. Perhaps on eBay you can buy a Sherman tank. Or Craigslist.
Craigslist, maybe you can. Look. Keep swiping. We've gone 5 minutes over, and I really do have to be on an aeroplane in 4 hours, or I'll be driving to the airport in 4.5 hours' time. So I have to bail on this. Did anyone else see anything else that caught their eye this week that they would like to mention?
Only in New Zealand, where
Can't recall.
what's his name, Mr. I've got a quote here from him anyway. The Deputy Chief Executive of Civil Aviation here says, in respect to drones, the incident rate is extremely low, which is kind of good. Over the past 5 years, there have been 29 prosecutions for drone use. So you got to wonder, what's all the fuss about? I mean, it is extremely low. So why are we wasting so much time, effort, and sweat on drones when the real problems lay elsewhere?
Because it's popular.
Yeah, and in New Zealand, they're considering now registering drone users, but only after a certain date. So that if they bring this in, if you buy a drone after that date, you have to register. But anyone who's already got a drone won't have to register, which is kind of like a dog's breakfast. Because if you're out there flying a drone in a park and someone comes along and says, I'd like to see your registration, how do you prove to them that you bought this before the thing? It's like, oh no, there are all these people driving desks down in our capital city, and they're going to make a big mistake here.
Oh, flight test for a chair, and you lot fly desks. That's amazing. Well, who would have thought it? And Richard in the comments is saying the Preventing Emerging Threats Act of 2018. I assume, and I assume that's a reference to purchasing of Asian products in the Americas. I don't know. Did you catch what that was, Nathan? I'm out of the loop with that a bit.
I haven't read much about that, but I would suspect that's come up a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe you could fill that out, Nathan. Anyway, Richard, sorry. Did anyone else see anything? Oh, yeah, go ahead.
This is just one thing that's been bothering me lately is the claim of a global shutter on so many of these drone cameras, and specifically the Phantom 4 Pro. Now, someone correct me if I'm wrong, but as a mechanical shutter on the Phantom 4 Pro, it's basically equivalent to a global shutter, but it is not.
No, it's not.
Is that incorrect?
No, completely incorrect. You have a very I can send you afterwards a link to a video where you can see exactly how the shutters work. When you take a picture on a global shutter, the pixel caught on the top left corner is captured at the exact same microsecond as the top bottom right corner. Okay. That's on a global shutter. On a rolling shutter, you have the two windows, and that move. It depends on the shutter speed. You have a window that rolls down the image. So the time that you capture the pixel here is
I totally understand a mechanical shutter and how they work.
Captures at 1/800 afterwards. So you get the image skewed. So then you'll have to correct the image. That's why global shutter cameras
products have true global shutters.
Yes.
Do they?
Yes. Go to industrial cameras. Go to the phase 1 cameras, the industrial phase 1 cameras, and they have a model with rolling shutter and the global shutter. And the price will tell you which one it is. Don't look at the specs, just look at the price, and you'll see exactly the difference. It's mandatory if you're trying to do for instance, at my company, we are now developing a solution for solar field inspections, and global shutter is mandatory because we have to do it very fast, and so global shutter is mandatory. No way of going with rolling shutter cameras.
This also speaks a little bit to again that Fortune article, in that some of the grades were at another tipping point. Some of the grades of machines that people are trying to use commercially just aren't up to the job that grown-ups expect, grown-ups in the real inspection industries and stuff like that. And it's people are catching a bit of a wake up. You know, the 107 with a white plastic drone, it's not going to work for much longer for you anymore. You're going to have to get some serious equipment. I don't know, agree or disagree with me? Anyone disagree or agree with me there?
Yeah, you really have to go up on the equipment if you want to present a professional product. Granted that there are software solutions that trick the capture of the images and do some magic on the imagery to correct for capture deficiencies. And I praise the guys from Pix4D that have a very good solution that will compensate, for instance, the shutter effects, but it's trickery. You don't get the true image, so you're introducing artifacts on the image to correct something that could be corrected on the capture.
That's right, Louis. That only works for the horizontal movement. If you've got vertical movement, you can't correct for that because you lose information if you've got vertical up and down. Because the interesting thing is that this is a trait of CMOS cameras. In the old days when we used CCD, they had a global shutter by default. So it's the improvement in light handling and that sort of stuff has meant a trade-off to the rolling shutter side of things. But it is being changed. I think the price of global shutter CMOS cameras will come down and they'll become consumer items pretty soon.
Yeah.
And above and beyond, adding that bill is summary of 2836, 115th Congress, a bill to assist the Department of Homeland Security in preventing emerging threats. I do know of this. I do know of some of the threats, and I do know of some of the things that have occurred. And well, let's just see how it rolls out. Let's see. America's doing really your ability for companies to lobby has been highlighted in the last week or so. And so let's see how the big companies are lobbying against or for this.
So will they ban kites now? Because on the Gaza Strip, the Hamas have been using kites with Molotov cocktails tied to the bottom of them to try and set fire to buildings. Interesting thing about that, do you know how the Israelis countered that? They got a whole lot of guys with mini quads to knock the kites down.
Did they?
Mini quads, yeah. There's footage on the. I saw it on Google News. That's one site's reporting that they had mini quad pilots taking out the kites. Wow, and there was some video footage, but it didn't look like a mini quad. It looked like a small quadcopter. So yeah, a score for mini quads.
And then similarly, they're also using DJI equipment to drop tear gas from the army there. So yeah.
One more nail in the coffin.
Yeah, so these things are being, it's a horrible, it's all, yeah.
Let's not go that way.
Yeah, no, I don't like talking about it. It's not what we're all about, is it? Anyway, I need to be all about going to sleep.
Come on, sleep is overrated.
Sorry, mate?
No, it's not.
No, sleep is overrated. Look at Nicola.
See, there's two of us here at least. I don't know about Nathan, that have got young children in the house as well. So sleep is
the middle of the day there.
It's such a primary thing. Yeah, it's just after midnight here. All right, so guys, thank you very much. That was a good one. I enjoyed this. Thank you very much, and I will definitely try and grab you all back again to talk nonsense once more at 2100 next Tuesday. Bruce, what's on the build table or pen CAD setup for you this week?
I'm trying to get the hydrogen balloon project finished this week. Got the payload done, so that depending on the weather and the wind. And I got a few other models that have arrived. So yeah, I'll be pretty busy this week. Just stay tuned.
Good show. We'll stay tuned. And Louis, what are you actually going to fly that helicopter, or will it just be
continuing? It has already flown.
How? There's no blades on it. It's just your man jewelry in the back.
Yeah. No, when it comes home, it gets the blades removed. Too large object to be left.
Safety first.
Safety
first.
So,
very good.
But it's already flown. Flies extremely well, but for a very short time. But that's the penalty we pay for getting all that power on one small on small vehicle. So now setting up the new Ardu Pilot Copter LE 3.6 release candidate 1, and some more tuning, and let's see how it flies.
Marvelous. And Nathan, what's on your build table at the moment? What was it? Sounds like you got a 3D printer going in the background.
No, I'm not sure what that is. That's interesting. No, I don't have a whole lot going on. It's just keeping the Believer up and going, and doing some more testing with that. And I'll let you know when I'm ready to release more.
Perfect. And last but not least, Nicola, what are you pretending to make born again by just changing a few parts this week?
Actually, nothing. This week, for those that are following me on Facebook, know that I'll be having fun with some toys. And when I say toys, I mean that literally, like a brushed copter with Wi-Fi video and a car with a Wi-Fi camera as well, which is a new thing for me, but thought it might be interesting. Decided to try it out. The baby certainly likes it, but it's, I kind of regret the car itself, not so much the Wi-Fi camera, because it's one of those really not really hobby grade cars. You've got a little motor that turns the wheels one way or the other, and it's 100% left or right. There's no proportional part, thankfully, the throttle is. And also, this week I'll be playing with this thing. This is it's the Ranger G2 from Volantex. It's 1.2 meters. And no, it's not plastic, it's foam. Although I was lobbying for plastic, and they said, well, on a plane that small, it's rather heavy, so we prefer not to do it. But the thing is, with this one, I've only replaced the T connector it comes with an XT60 because I don't have any batteries with a T connector, and I'm not a fan of using adapters. The idea for this thing is to take it out to the field, press record on the camera, and show people how easy it is to put it together and fly it, hopefully in the span of 30 minutes. And this is right now in the form as I've taken it from customs. Nothing else has been done on it except for that XT60 connector. And today I got this from customs, which is the Ranger 600. A lot of Rangers coming from Volantex, but sadly the radio was busted, so I can't really fly this thing now. I'll have to wait for a new radio. But that's about what I'll be doing this week, mostly toys. But next week I'll be back on the Believer.
Very good. Very good. So that's Archangel RC, for those of you that don't know. And of course, Bruce's RC model reviews and XJet. Nathan, I don't know. Have you got a YouTube channel? I can, and then Louis. Well, there'll all be helicopters anyway. So be very, very.
No, it's just Ardu Pilots.
Ardu Pilot. There you go. That's what I should have said. All right.
The everlasting tuning.
No, just switch on auto tuning, Nicola.
Yes.
Yeah, but when you do that for every update, so what, 3 times a week?
What?
Yeah,
every update?
It's like perpetual. Yeah. It's perpetual tuning. Yeah.
We don't have a release for what on Copter for 6 months.
So I have no idea.
If you go like me and compile it yourself, then you have to read. But we don't need it. Once you tune it, we carry on the tuning parameters. Don't worry. It won't crash on you.
And we just I can't say his name, Mr. Kahagan or something like that. Chris iForce TD. We've got to get Bruce to lean on him. I keep inviting him. Yeah, I have email conversations, but I don't know whether Bruce leans on him or something like that. But he won't come on. But he is invited. He's always invited. Interested to hear. Anyway, with that, I've got to go. I'm speaking at DroneCon 2018 in Johannesburg tomorrow at 11 o'clock. So that's a good time to go out and get a snack tomorrow if you're at DroneCon.
Will it
Otherwise,
be a live streaming from Suez News, Gary?
it might be if Tian remembers to bring the camera, but I think the event organisers are doing it as well. So we'll see. We'll see. It's not going to be very interesting, my bit. But there we are. All right, guys. With that, I have got to go to bed. I look forward to seeing everybody same time, 2100 GMT next Tuesday. Dear viewers, thank you very much wherever you are in the world. Have a lovely week and a fantastic weekend. I hope it's flyable for you. We'll see you all again soon. Cheers, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.